Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. Another piece of good news for Donald Trump, and again, almost in the nick of time, is his Truth Social site now going public. And the news from the Wall Street Journal today is that shares of Donald Trump's social media company surged 40% on their first day of trading, giving Trump a stake in Truth Social's parent company that at current values is worth about $5.5 billion. Alicia, what is the theory of the value of Truth Social that is behind that? And can Donald Trump tap any of that value in time to perhaps satisfy some of this money that he now has to post into court?
When trying to determine whether a company is worth valuation, that's really kind of a fuzzy calculation. I mean, there are a lot of companies or EV startups that went public with SPACs and had ethereal valuations that were completely divorced by what some would say market fundamentals. They were losing money up the wazoo, had basically no revenue. So I think it's a little ironic that the press is now saying, well, the Trump Media and Technology Group $9.6 billion valuation, at least as of Tuesday, is illogical. Even while they were cheering some of these EV startups a couple years ago that ended up going bust. That aside, I think the theory, to the extent that markets are behaving rationally, investors are behaving rationally, is that, well, if Donald Trump is elected president, and right now he's beating Joe Biden in most of the polls, that the Truth Social platform would become much more valuable. It would become a mouthpiece for the administration where he would announce certain things and then comment on certain things. Donald Trump was enormously valuable for Twitter when he was on that platform, as well as Facebook. And then when they kicked him off, I think that it actually hurt both those platforms in a way because it reduced the traffic and viewership among his followers. So I think the business case is that there will be a way to monetize the Donald Trump's presence on Truth Social. Last year only got $3 or $4 million in revenue. But again, to make the contrarian case here, Facebook hadn't commercialized or wasn't making a profit at its outset for several years, right? And a lot of social media companies don't. And a lot of them actually are still bleeding cash. I mean, Twitter still isn't making a profit. Reddit, that went public last week, is still losing money after nearly 20 years in business. So I don't think that this is necessarily unprecedented. Now, could Donald Trump potentially use this to satisfy the judgment against him by New York? Potentially. There's a 6-month lockup period, in which, again, isn't unusual for these kinds of deals. So he can't trade his shares or sell his shares for at least 6 months after the company goes public, which would put us into late September. Now, if he's able to appeal now the judgment and nonetheless he loses on appeal, we don't really know when that is. But if the Truth Social company maintains its current valuation, sure, he could potentially cash out and share some of his stock to satisfy the judgment. He could potentially do that to infuse his campaign with more cash. It really depends where the company is trading in September. Right now, it has about $9.6 billion valuation, but that could crash for any number of reasons in the next several months. And so he might not be able to actually, cash out and actually get a sizable profit that he could use to satisfy the judgment.
Kim, we'll give you the last word, but is this the latest meme stock, or is this a investment in a future social media site that conservatives could flock to? It's trading notably under the ticker DJT. And I think it's true that there has been much dissatisfaction with the policies, the moderation policies of the big tech platforms, including Facebook and Twitter, now X.com. On the other hand, drawing them to someplace else and running it as a profitable business is not a small challenge.
Look, I just think we don't know. Remember that an enormous amount of Truth Social's income, to the extent it has it or can get it, comes from advertising. It doesn't necessarily have a model like Elon Musk is trying to get at Twitter, in which, users actually contribute a little bit more for their check marks or certain services. I think social media companies as business prospects still have a long way to go. And Elon Musk is showing that and looking at that, which is how do you monetize these things in ways other than advertising? Obviously, Truth Social has suffered on the advertising front because it was so closely associated with Donald Trump, and a lot of advertisers decided that they would boycott it for that reason alone, especially as it launched in the wake of the 2020 election and the January 6th issue. So it has certainly struggled to have to deal with that. But again, I believe we're still at the opening levels of social media and what they might be worth, if anything, out there as going concerns. So we've still got a lot of space to run. There's a lot of people that think this is valuable simply as an alternative to some of the other biggies. They like the fact that that is what's there and that the market is providing an alternative. And that might also be behind some of people's investment interests in this too.
Thank you, Kim and Alicia. Thank you all for listening. You can email us at pwpodcast@wsj.com. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Potomac Watch.